His hands were shaking, and I thought, this isn't good news.
Tammy Peterson was told in 2019 that she had terminal cancer and less than a year to live.
What stops them from being able to share?
Tammy is a podcaster and public speaker and is married to the world-renowned psychologist Dr. Jordan Peterson. And after getting the devastating news, they went to some of the best hospitals in North America, but were told the same thing. The survival rate of this rare kidney cancer was 0%.
What you've got is going to kill you, and you're gonna die in about 10 months.
Wow. A friend of hers named Queenie visited her in hospital, gave her a pair of rosary beads, and offered to pray with her.
And she said, "Do you know the rosary?" And I said, "Well, I do, but I don't know how to pray the rosaries."
They prayed. Tammy underwent surgery for the cancer, and they removed it. Then there were complications which made her situation even worse. But she kept on praying. And then something remarkable happened.
And their eyes got big and they said, "You're better?"
I'm Colm Flynn, and in this interview with Tammy Peterson, we explore this incredible story and talk about why Tammy is now converting to the Catholic faith. This is Tammy Peterson One-on-One. Tammy Peterson, it is great to meet you. Thank you for having us here in your home.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you.
How are you feeling today?
Awesome.
You're feeling awesome.
Yeah.
And you're smiling a lot.
Yeah.
How is your health today as we sit here?
It's good. You know, I have a couple of things that I deal with that are not that much trouble. That's how my health is.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, it is. It's incredible.
Bring us back to 2019, was it?
Yeah.
When you got that diagnosis.
Yeah.
You were sitting in your doctor's office, and what did he tell you?
His hands were shaking. I came in, he said, you know, we came in for the 6-week checkup that you do after you have surgery of any kind, and they tell you, oh, everything's good, and, you know, good work. But we went into his office, and he started handing me papers to sign, and his hands were shaking, and I noticed his hands were shaking, and I thought, this isn't good news. So he started out and he said, actually, we biopsied the half a kidney that we took out. And in fact, it's not renal cell carcinoma as we suspected. It's something called a Bellini tumor. He said a Bellini tumor, they are very rare and they grow so fast that the only way they're diagnosed is after someone's passed away. And so what you've got is going to kill you, and you're going to die in about 10 months.
Wow. And
I thought, well, you know, all my mother and all her family are dead, and they died in their 60s and 70s, you know, and I thought, maybe maybe I've just inherited whatever is going on in my family, and oh well, that's kind of how I thought. And then we were in shock, though, you know, we were in shock. Jordan was in shock. He was with me. And we came home to our street, and my son used to live in a house at the end of the street with his wife. And so I told him, looks like I'm not going to get better. Looks like I have something that's going to kill me in 10 months. And I saw the grief in his eyes, which was way more grief than I had for myself. There was no comparison, and it reflected back on me, and when I saw it, I realized that I was worthy. I was worthy of staying alive or fighting for my life anyway. When it was selfish, you know, I was in the doctor's office and I was just thinking, oh, I'll die.
But maybe it was too overwhelming because
it was definitely too overwhelming.
Less than a year, 10 months left on this planet.
Right.
I mean, your mind, do you think, why me?
No, I didn't think why me. I thought, oh yeah, me. That's what I thought. I really didn't put up any defense or questioning at all until I saw my son. And then I felt this extreme peace just fill me. And a knowledge that I didn't have before. And I said to my son, you know him? That doctor, he's a man. He has an opinion. Maybe he's right, but maybe he's not right. The only way we'll know is God, because God will decide when I'm going to die.
That statement, only God will know, God knows when we're going to die. Did that come from your background, a religious background, or spirituality?
No, I think well, so when I was a kid, when I was a baby, I was baptized. I prayed before I went to sleep when I was a little kid. I went to Sunday school. I loved to go to Sunday school. I loved to color the pictures, sing the songs, learn the stories. You know, like any children, because you have to come to God as a child. They're very receptive, you know, and I was very receptive. But I was the youngest of 4, and by the time I was 12, all my siblings had left home, and I quit going to church. I was turning into a teenager who wanted to experiment and go do things and find out what life was about.
So you have the diagnosis, you're in hospital, you believe you only have months to live, and no one survives this cancer. But you start to pray, and particularly the Rosary.
Well, I started to pray right away after that day. But it wasn't very long that they put me back in the hospital, because they needed to get me back there quick to do the surgery, because there wasn't any radiation or chemo or anything, because they don't treat this cancer. There was no treatment for it. So just surgery. So they got me back in very quickly to do surgery. I think within a couple of weeks I was back in the hospital. And I had the surgery. The night before the surgery, we did a very deep prayer. They did the surgery, it went very well. And then I started convalescing. And I went home. And within a week, my legs started to fill up with fluid. And they had got the cancer, but it turns out that they had missed some of the lymph, and so it was draining. And so my life forces were draining into the lower parts of my body first. But I was slowly filling up, because it was my feet, my lower legs, and then my thighs. And I went to see the doctor. He saw me and he said, go to emergency right now. And they siphoned off 9 liters of fluid.
Wow, 9 liters.
They'd never siphoned off that much fluid. But I wasn't getting any better. I was wasting away. So they put me in the hospital again, and that's when Queenie emailed me, I guess. I don't remember, but she emailed and asked if she could come. She showed up and she had 2 rosaries that were blessed by the Pope, and she said, would you like to pray the rosary? And I was like, yeah, I would. And she said, do you know the rosary? And I said, well, I do, but I don't know how to pray the rosary. So there's a very beautiful atrium in the hospital from the 4th floor, and then it goes up many floors. So there are trees in there, and so people who are very sick, when they can't get outside, they can be wheeled in there, and they can have some what seems like fresh air and nature and quiet. And so we would go there every day at 10 in the morning and pray for 2 hours. She came every day for 5 weeks.
That is incredible. And she would pray the rosary decade by decade with you and explain the glorious mysteries. Yep. And
absolutely.
What did you think when you held the rosary beads, when you were praying the Hail Marys, when you were going through the rhythm of the rosary? Well,
the rhythm I think was, it was calming for me, because, you know, when I was talking to her, I was talking about, my mother was already passed away, but I would have been leaving my father, who was like 90 at the time, my sisters, my brothers, my husband, my children, my friends. I was leaving everybody, and so I was talking about those kind of things. But also, she would say, "Who do you want to pray for at the beginning of each mystery? What's your intention?" And I would say my intention, and then, but it would take me. I don't know. I can remember talking a lot. It probably took me 20 minutes to say my intention. Before then we would pray. But, you know, the prayer was enough to take me from this long, drawn-out meditation into these people that I loved and was going to miss, to bringing it back to a place where I was paying attention, but in a very rhythmical, methodical way. So I think that in that way it was good, because without the rhythm of the Hail Marys, and also you're touching beads too, so that keeps you present.
When you were praying the Rosary, I know you've said before that it helped you deal with, for example, the pain you were going through. At points you were in immense pain. But did you feel that pain kind of subside because of prayer?
Well, prayer, I would usually pray the Lord's Prayer when I would say I had to go down for a scan or something, and they would hook me up some way or another to these big machines, and because I didn't weigh anything anymore, I froze to death, and so that was part of the pain that I was in. Was I was very uncomfortable because I was wasting away, and also the procedures were invasive and painful. But if I prayed the Lord's Prayer just constantly over and over, I could just get through the procedure, and I could deny somehow the pain. It would help me deny the pain, or transcend the pain, I guess you could say.
Was it making you more comfortable with the reality you were facing of death, of the afterlife?
Oh yeah, for sure. I didn't have any fear. I wouldn't let the fears of the next day or whatever was coming bother me. I would just pray, and I continue to do that now. I don't let myself worry.
People often think about death or what may be next, but you know, it's an uncomfortable thought, it's a scary thought, so we just push it to the back of our minds. But when you were confronted with it so head on, did you think about it in a different way, and what did you imagine was ahead of you?
I know I stayed in the present. I stayed in the present. I just stayed with God in the present. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't go anywhere. You know, lots of people sent me prayers, and my brother, or my husband's sister, she came. She's a nurse, and she came to stay with me, and she took colored markers and wrote the prayers on pieces of paper and put them all over my hospital walls so I could see the prayers.
And you prayed the novena for the sick as well, I believe.
I did. That was very at the end when they finally found out there was a doctor in Pennsylvania that might have been able to help me. Before I left, Queenie asked if I wanted to be blessed. And Father Eric Nikolai, he came to bless me. And he told me to pray on gratitude. And he gave me the Opus Dei novena for the sick. And it was on the 5th day of praying those prayers that the leak in my lymph system closed up.
When the leak closed up, Tammy, what did the doctor say to you? What was the reaction from the medical professionals?
So I was sitting out having breakfast. I had eaten some fat the night before. It was called a fat challenge. If there was still a leak, then the bag that was a clear fluid would become milky, because that would mean that the fat was still coming out of the lymph. So the night before I'd had an egg or something. I think I had eggs. And I looked at the bag and I didn't see any milkiness, but I didn't know how long it would take. So the next morning I was having breakfast, and an intern and the head nurse came outside and they sat down with me and they said, so tomorrow we're going to cut you open and look for this, which is looking for a needle in a haystack. And we need you to do a fat challenge. And I said, well, I did a fat challenge last night. Oh, they said, well, let's see the bag. So I lifted up the bag and it was clear. And their eyes got big and they said, you're better? And I went into the hospital and they pulled out all, and in half an hour I was out of the hospital. And then they phoned me every week for a month. And at the end of the month they said, you're better. Goodbye. Good luck.
Isn't it incredible, from being told originally in the office with the doctor's hand shaking that you had a terminal cancer, 10 months to live, and the operations and the complications and the leak, to be told, okay, you're better.
Yeah. Right.
What do you put it down to?
Well, you know, earlier in June, when I was back in the hospital again with this more serious problem, my husband was just beside himself, and I felt sorry for him, and I wanted to save him some of the pain that he was feeling, and so I thought, I didn't even think, I just, what can I say? And the idea, the thought, I guess, maybe it was a prayer, right? Maybe it was a prayer that I prayed because I wanted to help my husband. I said, I'll be back at it by August 19th. It's our anniversary. And that day that that I stopped the leak was our anniversary. And so even though people can say, oh, maybe the dye irritated the lymph and maybe that closed it up, and maybe it did. Why did it do that on that day? Why was it that day? Because that was the day, that was our anniversary, our 32nd anniversary. And everyone, my husband, my son was there with his wife, my sister-in-law and her kids were there, and everybody was just blown away that is what happened that day. I was blown away that's what happened that day.
You have decided to convert to Catholicism.
Yeah.
Join the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Well, I don't know. When I was a little kid, I used to miss, in the Protestant church, I used to miss Mother Mary, anything about her. And maybe it was a feminist thought. I don't know. There was some feminism in my family. Maybe that's what that was. But something about it. It was, they had a portrait of Jesus Christ up there. That was good. We had prayers and everything. But there was just, I don't know, something. I felt like there was something missing. And then later I found out that my great-grandmother was Catholic and that my grandmother changed our religion to United. And so when I was better, one of my cousins phoned me and said, oh, she didn't know I was sick. She was sorry to hear I was sick. And she said, I'm going to send you something. And so we went on tour. And when we came back, we had a lot of mail. And I went through the mail and I found her letter. And in her letter, I found this rosary. And this was my great-grandmother's rosary. She carried it with her always. And so now it would be like 150 years old, wow. I suppose.
Wow.
And then she gave it to my grandmother when she died. And my grandmother gave it to my aunt. And my aunt died and gave it to my cousin. And now my cousin's given it to me. And I thought, yeah, see? I knew that there was something.
When you hold those rosary beads, and as you prayed the rosary throughout your time in hospital, the question that everyone looks at is, it is a psychological thing, something for you to focus on, something to help you be determined, just something to hold on to when you are desperate and looking for hope anywhere. Or is there something more divine here?
Well, I think, once I was better and continued to pray the rosary, I looked up the scriptures that are associated with each mystery to see exactly. I said, oh, this is the Bible. This is the Bible in this short, like here it is. And so it's a complete story. It's a story of suffering and redemption. And that's what life is about. It's about suffering and redemption. So, every day is that. You wake up and there's a trial today. Okay, well, there's a challenge today. I call that God's challenges.
I have to meet that Irish reporter today.
Right,
that's
right,
the trial.
Right. That's the trial for today. That's right. And then you give the interview and everyone's happy, and then there's redemption after that, and it's good.
How are you a different person since you started praying?
My husband said I'm more like, we met when I was 8, he was 7. He said I'm more like I was when I was a child.
You will be entering the Catholic Church Easter, is it?
Easter, yeah.
How are you feeling about that?
Good. I'm good. Who knows what will happen to me then?
You're looking forward to it?
Yes.
And Tammy, as we look at you today, you look great, you sound great. Since we came in here, you've been smiling, we've been joking, you've been laughing. How is life? How are you feeling? How is your health?
My health is good. I've had scans regularly. There's nothing there. So I'm good. I'm good.
People watching this, they may not be in the same situation you were in with that type of cancer.
Right.
But another illness, another trial, another trouble, heartache in their life. They think of praying, that's not for me, that's what other people do. I don't even know what the Rosary is. What would you say to them?
Well, everybody has their own journey, that's for sure, and they have to get to it their own way. And I got to it my own way, and it took me a long time. But it's, I don't know, it's something to focus on when chaos is all around, you know, and when you're ill like that, there's so much chaos and you don't know, you feel, you know, unbounded, and you feel like you're not grounded anymore. And when you pray the Rosary, that can bring you to a place that it can center you. It can center you for the day, or even for the hour, right? Or even for the minute. So it can center you for a moment in a profound way that you wouldn't have been able to attain. And make it a habit, you know? That's the thing about the Rosary. It's a practice, right? So it's not always every day. It's not always going to be this monumental thing that happens every day. But every day you're going to take it out and you're going to pray it. But one day you're going to need it. And because you've been practicing, there it'll be. Life is suffering, and you're going to need to have something to hold on to when the world opens up and there is nothing beneath you. And when that happens, well, God can bring you back up again.
Do you pray the Rosary every day?
Yes, I do. Out there on the porch. Yeah.
Finally, Tammy, when you look to the future, I know you have 2 children, 4 beautiful grandchildren. What are your dreams and hopes for the future?
Well, really, I hope for, well, you know, my kids, I believe that they have good intentions and that their hearts are in the right place. And so, you know, I hope all the best for them and their children, you know, and that they find the courage and strength they need for life's trials, because there will be trials. And I hope that Jordan and I can continue to speak the truth, to try to tell the stories that we're inspired to tell, and hope that that can be of some help to people who are listening. That's really what it's all about.
Tammy, it's an incredible story. It's an inspirational one, and thank you so much for sharing it with me.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
That was a good rehearsal, Tammy. We'll record that now.
Okay.
Yeah.